Hello, I'm Anne-Marie Foster and welcome to this episode of Little Bangor Stories. The sound of summer on Bangor's seafront and along the North Down coastline. On still mornings you can hear the calls of the black guillemots from their nesting places in the marina, below the Eisenhower Pier and along parts of Seacliff Road. The little birds with their black and white plumage and bright red feet have become an iconic symbol of our city, celebrated in artwork and even business. For many years their chief cheerleader and protector was the wonderful Julian Greenwood, and after he passed away, Shane Woolsey took on the mantle until his retirement. Now another Bangor man, Adam Ringland, has stepped up and volunteers his time to watch, count, record, ring chicks and share his observations with the British Trust for Ornithology and us. After a chance meeting, Adam agreed to talk to me about his work, and I think his enthusiasm is as uplifting as guillemot's song on a June morning. So Adam, this is a great place. We're in Bangor Marina, just outside Brigane's house, but we're at a very special seat. Tell me a wee bit more about it.
Yes, so I've brought you to Julian's seat. There's a plaque here on the bench in memory of Julian. And Julian studied our black guillemots here in Bangor, in the marina, on the long hole, Seacliff Road, for 30 years, since 1985. And the folk in the marina very kindly put up this plaque in honour of all his work.
Okay, and this seat sits with its back to Brigane's house.
Yes.
And it looks out over the marina. And obviously the reason why we're here is because of the
black guillemots, or tysties as they're called in Scotland.
Say that again?
Tysties.
Tysties?
Tysties, yes.
Oh, right, okay.
So black guillemot's the English name, tysties the Scots name.
Right, okay.
And
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, and most of the black guillemot population in the British Isles is in Scotland.
Aha, right.
So tysties is the very common term within ornithologists.
Okay. Well, we're very lucky then to have the black guillemots that we do have here in Bangor.
Yes, we are.
And they're so important that we just met at a coffee shop named after them.
Yes.
And there are boards along the pier explaining to people what the black guillemots are. But why are we actually here? Where are they in the marina?
Okay, so we have today in 2026, we've had a count of 30 pairs or 60 individual black guillemots within Bangor. So we've got some in the marina where we're standing, just at the back of Brigane's house. And we can see boxes and pipes that are put along here, which I can chat about later. We have some under the pier right in front of us, which is the commercial pier. A lot of the commercial boats moor up and fishing boats. And we have some at the North Pier, or the Eisenhower Pier, as most people know it as. We have some in the Long Hole in Bangor. We have some north of the Long Hole on Seacliff Road. And we have some at a house on Seacliff Road as well.
Fantastic. And we were just watching them fly past as we were chatting here. So do any of them nest in any of the pontoons?
No.
No, it's all in these pipes and boxes.
Yes, so black guillemots naturally nest in boulders. And well, there are no boulders here as we can see, except for around the outside. But what has happened is Julian here that we've talked about earlier, and another ornithologist called Shane Woolsey, who had helped after Julian had passed away in retirement. They'd put in these set of boxes and pipes to encourage more black guillemots to come into Bangor to breed. So these are artificial nesting sites, we would call them, and these boxes here, rather than the pontoon, the black guillemots use as a sort of maybe a bit of socialisation. But they don't really like each other, but they'll socialise with their partner on it, bond with their partner. But their home as such is these boxes here in this particular sub-colony, as we call it, in the marina. Okay, and so these are new, but guillemots have been here in Bangor for quite a number of years. I mean, probably predating the Eisenhower or North Pier. Most likely, and probably It's hard to know without seeing photos, but I'm sure that this, before even the marina was here, the harbour was here, I'm sure this would have been boulders all over, and the black guillemots were probably breeding here.
Tell me a wee bit more about black guillemots then. What do they feed on? Why do they like Bangor Bay and Belfast Lough? How long can we see them for as we're walking along Seacliff Road or whatever? And
That's too many questions. I have too many answers to those questions. So what do they feed on was the first question. The adults and the chicks tend to feed on sand eels, or more commonly butterfish, which are lovely brown eel-like fish. Sand eels are the ones you associate with puffins, where you see maybe 10 in a mouth. So that would be their sort of primary bits of prey, and we would know that from watching them, basically watching them come in to feed their chicks. So that's what they feed on, and they're feeding on them out somewhere in Belfast Lough, or slightly further afield, just outside Belfast Lough. So that's their primary bit of food.
Mm-hmm. They seem to appear magically in Bangor.
Yeah.
Suddenly everybody's aware the black guillemots
They're back, yeah.
So how long can we expect to see them here in an average year?
Now, this comes back to a lot of the work Julian did in 1985 and 2013. He observed them for that long, and he realised that in comparison to the birds that were studied in Scotland, which is the main study site, I think it was in the Orkneys and Shetland, the birds in Bangor are very odd in that they tend to be here nearly all year round. They are bizarre in that respect, but in terms of people seeing them, the most common time is going to be from March until July. So in August, hopefully all the chicks have hatched, they fledge and they're out to sea, and the adults go out with them as well. And so they're briefly away, but the odd thing that the black guillemots here in Bangor do is that they start to come back in September. When they lay their eggs in May, so they come back here, and you can sometimes see them in a different plumage at the minute. I mean, here's a bird right in front of us, which is it's summer plumage. It's black, it's got a lovely white wing patch, it's got nice paddly red legs and a nice black bill. In the winter, in September time, they're molting into a different plumage. So they're almost the opposite. They're white and speckly. They've still got the white wing patch, and they've still got the red legs, but they're almost white and speckly. They look like a totally different bird. So they are here nearly all year round, but the main times of year is April to July.
I am absolutely amazed by that, because I adore these little birds, but I only ever seem to see them when they're mostly black and a bit white.
Yes.
And you're now telling me that I could have been walking past them unknown to me, and they would have just been sitting there saying,
absolutely.
hello.
Masters of deception. No, they're not as common in the winter, right? They strategically, from my observations and Julian's, they come in strategically in the winter in good weather, and I suspect high tides. I suspect I need to do a bit more work to prove that, if it's true that high tides bring them in, but usually find fair weather, at least in the morning. We suspect, I think from Julian's work and again my observations, I suspect they're in really early to defend their nest. Specifically, that early. They're so competitive as birds.
Okay, right. So we're looking, as I said, at the pipes and the boxes on the commercial pier.
Yeah.
So do pairs pick one out and they hold on to that for, well, how many years does the guillemot live?
Okay, so the average is about 10 to 11 years.
Oh, wow.
The older it gets, the more likely it's to live longer, right? So a lot of the birds that we're looking at right now that are on the boxes, they're probably older birds. The ones that have bred, of course, are probably quite old. The oldest bird, I believe, was 24. It was ringed in Orkney. Unfortunately, that surpassed a record that was held by Julian.
My goodness. How many chicks would they have?
They average about, I think it's about 1.4, but it's two. They tend to lay 2 eggs. It's the blotching on the eggs which is very noticeable. They have almost like a black navy blotching, and the eggs are so variable as well. You have some that are not so blotched, and you have some that are thick. It's almost like sludge almost. So it's very unique and very rounded as well. So
the chicks are born in May.
The eggs
Eggs are laid.
Eggs are laid in May, yep.
And then the birds all fly off in July.
Except for these birds here, look at them, they're all kind up.
But how long does it take to rear a new bird?
A youngster. From it? If the egg is laid in May, the chick will be born about 30 days later, so a month later.
Okay.
It's in and around 28 to 34 days, and then about another 30 days later, the chick, if it's fat enough and if it's willing, it goes. So, yeah, if you have a bird that's laid its egg in mid-May, its chick should be ready in mid-July-ish, mid to late July to go.
Sometimes things don't go to plan, and a little tech problem meant we had to leave the breezy marina and move inside Brigane's house. As we said, we don't have a lot of boulders around here. Mm-hmm. So what was the solution?
So there were black guillemots here before these boxes in the marina, and they were nesting in purpose-built, almost holes dug out of the Eisenhower Pier or the North Pier, pipes along Seacliff Road in the long hole. And there's some pipes as well in the marina. In 2013, there was a project run to try and increase the black guillemot population here, because there seemed to be a lot of birds here, and they were squabbling at the time. Squabbling just being competitive over nest space. So they put in these boxes in the marina here, and there's the box at the end that we can see from the window is box 18, and the birds in there have really enjoyed using that box, apparently. We've already ringed the chick in that box. The chick is gone. It's fledged. It's out in the water. The adults are still in there at the minute, which is a bit bizarre. But black guillemots do that.
And what are the pipes?
The pipes are just old drainage pipes that are not used, essentially.
So do they? But there seem to be pipes kind of fastened to the wall.
Oh, sorry, the white pipes. Yeah. Are
they to do with the guillemots as well?
Yes, they are. Yeah, the black guillemots will use them as well, but they seem to prefer the boxes. And the boxes have come about from the 1980s on the Copeland Islands and Lighthouse Island, where Copeland Bird Observatory is based. And so there was a scheme there to bring more black guillemots to the island because there wasn't many natural sites there. So boxes were built by the volunteers there, and the black guillemot population seemed to explode. So it went from about 2 pairs to about 30 pairs on Lighthouse Island. And 20 years later, they thought at the time they could do that in Bangor. And would that help increase the population here? We're not seeing, that there's a lack of fish, for example. We're seeing that it's maybe more to do with space here. And they put them in, and it has definitely encouraged more birds to come and breed in the marina since that time.
About how many boxes and pipes do we have in the marina?
Let me count them all.
Oh, you?
I can't quite remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
12. Any plans to add any more?
Potentially, yes. Hopefully, we can get a bit of money. The boxes are not that bad. They're a bit fiddly to build, but it's they sit on a galvanized steel shelf, and that's probably where the expense is in putting them in. But I think it would be really good if we could do that.
I just wanted to touch briefly on you, Adam. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Julian did the work here for
30 years.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it since this year. Yes.
And if you don't mind me asking, what drew you to it?
I'm from Bangor, and I've always loved the black guillemots in Bangor. And as soon Julian had done the work for 30 years, and then Shane Woolsey, who's he worked for the BTO at the time, and he was a volunteer out on Copeland Bird Observatory.
Is the
British Trust for Ornithology, yes. And he'd taken over the monitoring from Julian, and he'd recently retired, and so I thought I'd get in touch and see with Shane and get in touch and see, is there, does he need help, and he was saying, no, look, I'm not really doing this anymore. I'm doing still some of the work, and I thought, okay, well, this is maybe something that I could come in and help with. And it was spurred on by, I'm a volunteer for Copeland Bird Observatory. I'm a volunteer for the British Trust for Ornithology for the ringing scheme and the nest recording scheme. And we'd found on our observatory, from our ringing data, that a good few birds that we ring and some birds that Julian had ringed cross paths on the island and Bangor. So we thought there's a bit of synergy here. Let's go and investigate. So that was from the organisation's perspective, and from my perspective, they're just great.
So from May to July, you're just constantly wandering around and about, keeping an eye on things.
It's not even that. Julian did a lot of. He nearly did it all year round. So this year, although I started it this year, it was almost a test year to see if I could do it and just figure out how Julian did things, and to see if it was possible if I could do it within my life. And so I've been doing it since December, watching the black guillemots. That's what I've said earlier about them in their winter plumage and coming in. That's from going once a week and just seeing, are they there in the winter? Because it's clear that this Bangor is such an important site for them in the winter as much as it is in the summer. It's home for them in the winter as much as it is when they're breeding. So
that's amazing. So they're, the sand eels and what did you call that?
Butterfish, yeah.
They must be all round in.
Oh yeah, yes, they must.
Bangor Bay or Belfast Loch or just further afield.
Yeah.
And have you enjoyed doing it?
Oh, absolutely. Like they're just brilliant. They're just so comical. They're so silly. They're beautiful birds, and there's something about them in Bangor. I don't know. They're just so special in Bangor.
They're iconic,
unique.
aren't they?
They're iconic, but they're also very habituated here. So as you say, so many people enjoy watching them and seeing them, and are so keen to see them to be successful. And that's something special in my opinion, especially today. Today's world where we're building too much and wrecking things a wee bit, and it's nice to see the black guillemots are here, and they're doing okay. For now.
So you do all this work
with
the BTO and everything, and I remember Julian used to produce reports every couple of years or whatever with his findings.
Yeah.
Are you hoping to do something similar?
Yeah. Oh yes, every year. Yes, absolutely. That's the whole point of this work. Even as a volunteer, it's to do with studying these birds, to figure out what solutions we have to protect them, maintain them, or increase their population. So that's why we're doing this. And if you're not keeping an eye on the birds and you're not studying them, they'll slowly, over years and years and years, start to drift away. And that's why Julian was so important today, and Shane afterwards. Without people like that, and the public who come and see them as well, because people love them so much and are always watching them and care about them, that's why they're here. If people didn't give a damn, you might see the odd one about and you might go, what's that bird? But it's the care that people show. And that's definitely what attracted me to them as well, to go back to the earlier question.
I want to ask you as well, if people, as you say, we know people do love the black guillemots in Bangor. Is there any way that they can help you or help the BTO with the work that you're doing?
Just keeping an eye on them, and if there's any developments or things like that, about that might affect them, that's when people need to contact, the authority that might be doing it. If it's the council, if it's the government, things like that. That's important, because there's people who come in and they might just think, I've got a job to do, and they're not trying to destroy black guillemots, but they're maybe just ignorant and just need a bit of education, and just needs a bit of prompting.
Realise that those blocked up water drains are vital to the black guillemots.
Exactly, yes. And the staff here in the marina have been vital for that as well. They care so much about the black guillemots, and they've helped Julian, Shane and myself do all this work, as well. So, and I think this year we've put on colour rings to the birds as well as metal rings. So the metal rings on a bird are usually you would need to handle the bird to see it, right? Because the writing's quite small. But we have colour rings. The Julian used to use yellow rings. Now we're using white with black writing. And the best way to help probably at this stage in the winter is to report those sightings. Knowing where those birds are going, we only ring the chicks. Knowing where those birds are going and how they're using this space is really important, to knowing how the population's doing.
So what you're saying about The 2026 rings are white.
With
They have
black writing, and they start with the letter A.
and they start with the letter A. So if you're walking along the Seacliff Road maybe next year and you
Yes.
see a bird, you
That's
might be able to see this year's.
And report it to us, and I can tell you a wee bit about when it was ringed and where it was and where it's been found in the past. But yes, because they're chicks now, the way black guillemots, their ecology works is they don't tend to come back until their second year of life, and they don't tend to start breeding until their third year of life. But even at that, they're inexperienced, so they're still learning. So it's after 4 years when they start to breed. So there's a wee bit of time for me to organise a few things in the background before I write an email address. But yes, that would be the best way.
Tell me this: have you given any of them names?
No, that's a bit of a boo-boo in science and ornithology. You can't humanise the birds, so no. But I can tell you that the three chicks that we've ringed here are AAA, AA-B, and AAC.
Well, that'll do.
That'll do, yeah, exactly. And AAC, he or she was in box 18 there. The two adults are still sitting on in the box at the minute, and that bird's went out to sea.
Yeah.
But the adults are still sitting there after a week. It fledged last week. It was all buzzing.
I mean, how do you ring them? Do you get on a boat and climb up a ladder, or do you lean very far over the side of the pier and into the box?
So we get on a boat, and that's where the marina staff come in and are very, very kindly let us on the boat to do this work. So yes, we'll go on a boat in high tide and reach into the box at a certain stage we'll wait till the adult's off the nest, because the adult's very sensitive to disturbance. If the adult's on the nest and it's sitting on the nest, we won't ring the adult, and we won't try to move it to ring the chick. That's just to make sure that the adult doesn't leave the chick. Okay. So if there's no adult in the box or in the nest and the north pier, of course, as well, we'll go in, just take the chick out, put it in a bird bag, as it's called. We'll weigh the chick, and we put a metal ring on the right leg and the colour ring on the left leg. And if there's a bit of time and it's not too warm, it was very warm over the last 2 weeks, so we only weighed the birds. We could take a few additional biometrics, for example, the wing measurement, but it's been warm, so we've been pretty fast at getting them in and out into the box. So, and yes, I'm happy to say that all three, at least in the marina, have fledged and they've left the nest. I've seen them, so it's really, really good.
They have a lovely life here in Bangor, but I do remember a few years ago that hooded crows, or hoodies, were causing a bit of a problem. People fixed it by blocking up what were very generous openings on the holes.
Yeah.
Do they have natural predators, even in Bangor Marina?
In the natural predators tend to be birds of prey in other areas and other places. And things like otters, mink, as well, just an introduced species in Scotland. Hedgehogs will eat the eggs and things like that. Cats will also predate them. But in Bangor Marina, yes, the problem can be hooded crows. The boxes that are out there, the Copeland Bird Observatory style boxes, they have a very small hole, so the hooded crows can't actually get in, which is really good. But the ones on the north pier, which you're referencing, sometimes the wood falls off, and Julian put the wood on there. Shane continued that, and I've put a few bits more when I can this year to stop the hooded crows getting in. So yeah, the hoodies can be a problem, and at the end of the day, it's nature as well. The hooded crows need to eat, but it's when you start seeing it constantly that's when it becomes a problem. I haven't noticed it this year personally as bad, and actually the north pier is done okay for productivity.
Well,
so
that's
I'm still
good.
have to do my statistics.
So it's not a hooded crow takeaway restaurant this year?
No, not from my perspective. But it can be next year. But yes, that's all the conservation element is you have to think. And that's why you ring them, that's why you monitor them to check, is there a problem here? Are these birds not going to produce chicks? Because I said these birds may live 11 years, but those chicks have to grow up 11. Those chicks will take a bit of a while to learn how to breed, and some of those chicks will pass away just naturally in the sea. There's nothing you can do about that. That's just life. So yeah, there's an importance to just making sure that nature's not being unbalanced, because what we've done here in the marina, or really what Julian started and the staff at the marina have helped with, is they've created an artificial human-made space for the birds, and it's sort of up to us to keep that space safe for them. That's how I see it. It's a bit of a duty thing.
So, Adam, are we the only colony of black guillemots in Northern Ireland, or are there others? And how many roughly do we have around the place?
So we're not the only colony in Northern Ireland. It's a very special colony, as I said earlier, but that's probably because it's been studied so well and the care that everyone has thrown into it. Another big colony nearby is on Copeland Bird Observatory on Lighthouse Island. Grimsport has a small colony as well of about 24 birds. Don't quote me on that. Which I've monitored but not ring. Just to have a look to see the population numbers. And there's a lot on Rathlin as well. And on harbours on the north coast as well. Like Glenarm's very good for birds. I think it's around about 70 individuals have been counted there by volunteers as well. So it's really, really good. There's probably about just over 1,000 black guillemots individuals in Northern Ireland.
That doesn't sound like a lot.
It does not sound like a lot. And there's actually more puffins in Northern Ireland.
Gosh.
So there's around about just over 1,500 puffin.
You see, I tend to associate them with Rathlin.
Exactly, yes.
As being their central
Hideout.
city.
Yes.
Yeah, but do we have any other puffins in and around the coastline apart from Rathlin?
We do indeed, yes. We have a few pairs on the Gobbins Path. The Isle of Muck recently, Ulster Wildlife managed that. They had 2 on the island last year. Don't know how they'll probably tell us this year, I'm sure. And we have roughly 120 on Lighthouse Island and Copeland Bird Observatory as well. So puffins are a cousin of the black guillemot, but there's actually more than the black guillemot, which is interesting.
It really is.
Even British Isles wide, they reckon there's maybe about 20,000 pairs of black guillemot, but puffins are in and around, I think. Oh no, I couldn't quote a figure, but it's in the hundreds of thousands.
How many roughly do you think are in the kind of we'll call it the greater guillemot Bangor area?
The greater guillemot area. So if we've got Bangor at 60, Grimsport at about 24, Donaghadee has 4, the Copelands probably has around 80 of the 3 islands, as a guess. There's 60 on Lighthouse Island at least. Malile has about 16 or so.
Okay.
So there's at least over 100.
That's brilliant.
Way over 100, maybe 200 or so.
That's great. And is that as good as when Julian was doing his work, or?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know.
Have to wait.
I would say in Bangor it's got better from Julian, definitely, and that's primarily because of these boxes, but also under the commercial pier, Julian helped put in other artificial nesting sites, they're like breeze blocks that have been stacked up, and there's some boxes under there as well, actually. So definitely they've increased in Bangor because of us giving that space to the birds. And I mentioned Copeland earlier as well. I mean, we went from 2 pairs to now we've got 30. There was 40 at one stage. So it's space, and that's what I'm interested in. What the birds call home, and what we can do to make home for them where we can.
It's really interesting because the success, as you say, is the work that Julian did, Shane did, and now you're doing with the BTO. Mm-hmm. But it's also shows how when a population gets behind its wildlife, what can be achieved.
Exactly, yeah. I know, 100%.
Julian Greenwood was the guy who started it all. I met him years ago whenever he came to my house because he had spotted black guillemots in and around it, and we had a great chat about it. It's a shame that you never got to meet him.
Yes, definitely. It's I've talked to lots of different people who knew Julian or helped Julian, and he sounds like such an inspirational person, and even reading his work, it definitely inspired me to come out and try this year, and hopefully I can continue it for more than 30 years.
Well, has anybody who knew him given you any hints and tips about what to do?
Yeah, so Shane Woolsey, who I had mentioned earlier, who'd taken over for Julian, was so helpful. And, he'd taken me around. He said, here's the birds here, here's the birds here, here's the birds here, here's when you should do this, here's when you should do that. So Shane, I have to give great thanks to Shane for helping with that. Julian also had a bit of support from his family helped, but also students and things like that. And no, I didn't get to speak to them, but I have to say thanks for them for helping Julian. But there was another ringer who, like Shane, was associated with Copeland Bird Observatory as a volunteer, called George Henderson. And George was steadfast in helping Julian ring these chicks and monitor them. And George is still about today, and he lets me know how the birds are getting on. And he's been so important for me to figure out what exactly Julian did. And I'd like to say I stuck to what Julian did, but I keep getting fascinated by these birds, and I go off on a bit of a tangent sometimes, and I don't do the proper survey, half an hour of this. So George, I have to say thanks to George as well for helping, and a friend of mine as well from Copeland Bird Observatory, who's also with the bird ringing scheme, Stephen Fife, has helped with the ringing as well here. So it's almost like a wee community of people helping things behind the scenes, and I'd like to think that continuing what Julian and Shane have done, and hopefully we can see the birds prosper for as long as I keep going.
I have to say, I think a lot of people would probably think that you have the best volunteer option that there could possibly be in Bangor to follow the journey of our black guillemots as they arrive in May and produce new life and then fly away, nipping back and forward. It must, just so much fun watching those wee birds.
It is, and you can get lost in the science and the surveys, but as soon as you come to watch them, then you get lost in them instead.
Thanks to Adam for his time, and to Julian, who built the foundations for our guillemots all those years ago. This episode is dedicated to him. If you enjoyed this chat, please like and share. Until the next time.